there, gods and goddesses. This is Sacred Erotic Poetry, Sacred Sexuality and Ascension with Gila and Nehemia. Are you listening? Are you out there? Are you feeling the call to go deeper into divine union with yourself, God, and your divine counterpart? I'm really connecting into relationships in this particular podcast, both with ourselves, with the infinite oneness, and with others in general. So I'm going to be focusing on relationships in this one, and I know it's going to be a deep one. Been feeling it deeply in my entire body. Been a bit on fire, but also going within to really connect into the energies and really understand, not just for me, but for collectively how we can open up more grids of freedom and of conscious relationships. So let's start by taking 3 deep breaths together. So I'm inviting you to close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths with me. Calling in our heart space, calling in our emotions, calling in our higher selves to deeply connect with us today, both in this podcast episode and for the rest of our journey in this Eclipse Gateway. Inviting in God Source Universe, Holy Mother, Holy Father, from deep in the womb of Mother Gaia, from the core of the earth, and all the beautiful scents and smells and touch of all of our senses, both psychic and physical, to really play into this transmission. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Aho, and so it is. So as I said earlier, I am stepping back into relationships. That's how I started. Those of you who don't know my journey, about 5 years ago, I would say, yes, 5 years ago, I started this official journey of transformation. And it started by really connecting to my body, my erotic desires, and writing poetry to express my feelings to another and to myself, and to really allow myself to speak my truth and let go of the silence. Those of you who don't know, had been in a very abusive relationship, and I had been very, very quiet for most of my life, keeping most of my thoughts to myself. And this podcast and many things that happened 5 years ago helped me to really step into who I am, my authenticity, my sovereignty, and all that I desire. So if you're in that space of, you've been healing, you're doing some healing, you're stepping into more of who you are, deciding more about what it is that you want. I know you're out there. I'm with you. I know this is a process and sometimes it can be challenging. So I'm inviting you to connect with me today. So I would love your feedback. So any of you who wants to share, I'm going to be sharing feedback that someone else wrote to me earlier this past week on a podcast that I had published, and I'd love to share yours as well in future podcasts. So feel free to send me a message at gila@gilanahemi.com, or if you'd like to, you can write straight into this podcast. They have messages in most of the podcast stations, so I can receive it that way as well. And I'm going to highlight someone who I know personally as well, and I wanted to just share her thoughts of this podcast from last week. So if you haven't heard it, I would definitely encourage you to hear it. Her name is Shaina Boe, and she said, Gila, I really enjoy the connection with you in this podcast. Thank you for making it. I can feel your trust and excitement. So last week was all about trusting the path, getting excited about it. Last week was the new moon in Taurus with the solar eclipse. And this week we're moving into, we're kind of in the middle. The last week was a new moon. Next week will be the full moon, and it's going to be a lunar eclipse. So exciting times that we're in. Thank you, Shayna, for listening, for commenting, for sharing your thoughts. I really appreciate that, and I'm really excited about this one as well. This next moon that's coming up next week, that we'll be talking more about next week, is the blood moon. And it's a full total total lunar eclipse. It can be seen in many places. So I would definitely ask you to check and see where you are located and find out where it is. It's going to be after my next podcast, which will be on the 15th. So more to come on that in next week's session. So going back into relationships, I'm inviting you to do more self-inquiry as to what does it mean for you to have a conscious relationship? What do conscious relationships mean? I know I used to talk a lot about this a couple of years ago, and I wanted to bring it back up. I feel like love is in the air, love of ourselves, love of each other, love of the infinite oneness, and of course relationships. Whenever we talk about relationships, we're thinking about romantic relationships for the most part, but I feel that relationships really encompass everything: your children, your friends, your coworkers, as I've said in previous podcasts. And so I feel like we are definitely merging with our higher selves now. Those of us that have been doing the inner work and are desiring Hyros Gamos, which is really a holy marriage of really both of our energies, and connection with God and connection with another, in a truly divine relationship. Meaning, and I wanted to go into what that means because it's really meaning about understanding our journey, understanding our own, you know internal feelings and what triggers us, as well as dealing with another on that level too. I think we all have this template of what we are desiring, whether you grew up in those fairy tales or you didn't grow up in the fairy tales, it doesn't really matter. But we all have like this, picturesque view of what we want in a relationship. And sometimes even when we meet the person that we're truly connected to and our hearts are really open to, it doesn't always, all the dots don't actually, or all the check boxes are not ticked off. There are definitely always going to be some stops and starts, and it's always a dance. And I think it's really important to say, I really felt guided to say this today before I got on. I was thinking about this, that we need, or I'm inviting you to really be present in a relationship with somebody, both, platonically and romantically, or in whatever way it is. Even true friends can be, there's a lot of love involved there. And to see them for who they are and really soak in all that they are, in all ways, their shadow, their light, the multidimensionality of them, because it's so easy to be like, oh, that doesn't work for me, or I'm not going to do this, but to really understand, decide if you want to take that time. It's not for everyone, right? It doesn't always work for everybody to be accepting, but I think that um, true love of anyone, regardless of your specific relationship to them, is acceptance, right? For first and foremost for ourselves, it's acceptance. Once we accept who we are and surrender to what is, then things start to flow. And so I feel like it's the same with people. With animals, when we accept this is our pet, this is what's going on, and we're not trying to fit them into something or fit another person into like a box, then we can actually, relish what we do have together and see, just allow it to go wherever it needs to go. And I know that we've been taught to like, to map it, but we can't map it. Love is not really a map. If you think about your heart and how you feel, and I really want to get into feeling today, like feeling, really deep feeling, feeling the touch on on your skin of, someone else or your own hands touching you. It's really quite exhilarating. I have a whole thing on touch in Medium that I wrote for a publication that I was cooperating with or coordinating with another person called Sacred Erotic Self. So you can definitely find my blog post about it there. And touch is a love language, right? And when we can truly allow and receive someone else's touch and feel that love, it can take us to places that are, you know really deep, deep spiritual heights, as well as deep senses of pleasure, which is back into the eroticism that I had originally started out with my business and with my podcast. So I wanted to get back to that, and to really just step into more of that bodily sense of touch. But it's not just body; it goes through. It like filters into the body. So stay with me here. It filters into the body and it touches all senses, right? It goes into visual, it goes into auditory, it can go into like vibration, right? You can sometimes feel the vibration through your skin. I know when I close my ears and I say Om when I do my spiritual practice in the morning, I'm saying something, but I can feel my entire body vibrating. So it's something like that. You can feel the vibration of another person's energy. You can psychically sense it because you're so connected, either through your eyes or even with your eyes closed, because you just feel, again, feel their their energetic aura, and you can taste, right? You can taste another person, and you can also have all like psychic, any psychic, clairaudient, like through these senses, it goes into a different level when you're attuned to your own, powers. So I really I'm encouraging you to not just, move with the five senses, but allow each of those five senses to take you into that other realm, and either with yourself, with another, however you desire to do this, because even if you're not in a current partnership with somebody, or you don't know who that next person is, you can experience this in like when you take a shower, when you're listening to music, when you're cooking, everything can be very, very sensual. And when you allow yourself to be sensual, you will allow those movements, those feelings, those sensations, those smells to take you to those ethereal places. And I feel like this is the crux of my message and always has been. I was a little bit on hiatus because I was dealing with so much more of the material world, but I'm feeling called to go back into this space because it's such a rich space, not just between, not just about romantic love, but spiritual love, the holistic love of being with anyone, being with any being, even just like smelling the flowers is really kind of an erotic experience. You get into this heady, like, you know, um, the fragrance can make us feel like we're on another planet. It takes us to this place. Remember when I know when I'm cooking, I'm smelling the food. I'm like not even tasting it. I'm smelling it. I'm allowing all of those spices to like totally light up my sense of smell, let it go through all of those, passageways to take me to other places, maybe even past lives that remind me of something. So I just like start to get very creative. We're really coming into our creativity by allowing ourselves to do this. For me, it might be writing, or it could be even visualizing. I love to daydream. I love to see things in my mind's eye, and those instances allow me to do that. When I'm like petting my dog and I'm really like, keep getting her very relaxed, I enjoy that connection. Or, even it could be with your child, it can be with your partner, it can be with anybody, and just allow yourself to go to those places that maybe you think are taboo. That's really the depth of my work. Go into the taboo, because the taboo is where more light emerges and all the walls start to collapse, because there really are no walls. There walls are there that are created by our minds, and they don't exist. They only exist because we say that they exist, but there are no walls, right? There are no gender uh, there are no gender constructs. We say it's so, but we decide what it is. Maybe we say, okay, I say I'm a woman and I know what it means for me to be a woman, but I can love another woman, I can love a man, I can love whomever I want to love in whatever way I want to. And I feel like that's what conscious relationships are about. It's not about what has socially been constructed, it's about what we decide we want to construct. So I wanted to share a poem that I wrote along those lines, but not exactly. But it's something that I feel like I wanted to share today. I wrote this a few days ago. As the clouds move, my mind wanders. The dust settles. The peace enters my soul. I merge into a space unknown to my consciousness. I embody emptiness, allowing myself to receive, opening my body to the ethereal energies, ushering me into a deep sadhana, absorbing all that I think I am into nothingness, entering the void of presence. So, how does this relate to what I was just talking about? Well, I know that I've experienced this, and I feel that when we are in a deep meditation with someone, this can be in a romantic relationship, or it can be in any relationship, really. Or we can be, we're just working, we're just creating. We're in this deep emptiness. We're just in this mode of creation. And when we're deeply present with another, especially in a romantic relationship, in a sexual relationship, it's like you're in this deep meditation, and there nothing else exists. This is really the core of my work before, and it continues to be. Because when you're in that deep space, whether you're physically with each other, whether you're, like etherically with each other, wherever you are with each other, we'll just talk about the physical, since that's what most people know. Um, it's such there's so much depth there, and so much is expressed without speaking. And I feel like silence is really underrated. There is silence with abuse. It's not really acceptable at all. Like, you don't want to be silent when you're in pain, though that's how many of us do tolerate it. So I'm definitely encouraging you to speak up about it. And when we are with another and we're just experiencing this deep meditation, um, there are many times words don't need to be expressed. The emotions are felt. It becomes so deep that it's like expression of normal communication terms doesn't work. It moves into an art form. um, I even feel meditation is an art. When we can, when we're creating art, we are in deep meditation. We're totally focused. We may or may not know what we want, but we're forming it as we go along, and it becomes mind-boggling that it's so amazing. It's the same thing between two people, or between how many ever people you want it to be. As long as everyone's in tune with each other, it can be a really an a very, very pleasurable experience, and that can continue on. So sometimes it's hard to get back to that space, but when you've had that connection with one or more people, whichever you decide is, what you like, it can only build from there. And there are going to be times when there is like a disconnect, when there is, a dissonance. And, the question is, are you willing to move through those times? Because I think we become a very kind of self-gratifying or always looking for gratification type of society. And when we don't get it, then we're like, okay, we're moving on to the next. But what if you actually stand by that person or persons to allow the waves of whatever they are healing through to be with them, to just be with them, not necessarily say anything to them, not necessarily, you know, ask any questions, but just, allow yourself to witness them. And I find that in both my coaching practice and in my personal relationships, that's been a huge, huge way to get closer and to get to understand them better, and also to lay really strong foundations for our relationship wherever it goes. There's a deep, deep level of trust, and a trust of our own selves as well as a trust of another. So I think again, it goes back into that void of presence, right? That void of emptiness that what we have thought about ourselves no longer is. We just are, that sense of nothingness. I'm really into that. I said it last week too, this feeling of emptiness. And I feel like emptiness is also very much part of presence, because we are able to experience and we're very much able to then absorb all the love that already exists and has always existed, both within ourselves, with another, with the divine. And until we can move into that sense of like, I am receiving this love, I was listening to Ram Dass. I was telling my group program this week. If you haven't heard him, you should definitely listen to Ram Dass. And he just talks about, I am loving awareness. I am loving awareness. And I love that. I love that because um, that's who we are. We're loving awareness with what is. We're loving awareness with, I'm loving awareness in my house. I'm loving awareness looking at the trees. I am in loving awareness of what is. And it just takes out all of the doubt. Because what happens in relationships, been listening to some songs with my kids and like, popular songs or songs that are trending right now. I like The Weekend, because he goes into some deeper darkness. But I think it's true that when we go into those feelings of I'm not good enough for this person, I don't know if I'm worthy, it's still our own story. It's still our own inner healing that we haven't gotten through yet, right? We haven't addressed it yet. And when we can address that, even with another being present, or alone, however that works out for you, then you realize, especially as you merge with your higher self, you are worthy of everything because you are. There doesn't have to be a reason because you are. And I feel that this new moon in Taurus solar eclipse has helped us to merge with our higher selves, to really know that deep in our soul and in our heart, we already have the path. We already know where we're going in our work, in ways that we make money, in ways that we can financially stabilize ourselves. We know our worth and we will not settle. And so when I talk about not settling, that doesn't mean that somebody has to tick all the boxes in terms of a partnership or whatever you're looking for in relationships. It means that you know what you're worthy of, you know when it feels right, and you know when to continue to walk alongside someone or some people, and when not to. You trust in your own intuitive guidance because you are worthy of it and you're not looking for outside validation. I feel like this is important. I know that I've shared it before, but I feel like this intuitive psychic energy that's all coming online for us now, and that I've been particularly working with in the grid for the collective, is very, very important at this time, especially for those of us who are really committed to sacred relationships and conscious relationships, not just for ourselves, but for the planet, for the cosmos, for the divine. We are called here to do this work and we're committed to it, even if it seems that we're quote unquote going on a 3D path, or a path that seems kind of not what we had thought we'd do, but it feels right. So trust your feeling. Trust the feelings and allow the feelings to lead you. Trust your inner knowing and ask yourselves, is this my inner knowing speaking to me? Or is it my higher self? Sometimes it's hard to discern what's going on. Am I taking someone else's energy? But this is the time when this is the time that we really need to do our spiritual practice and to cleanse ourselves so that we can get into that time of stillness, that space of stillness, pausing and really understanding that this is our truth. This is our path, and we may or may not know how it's going to turn out or when it's going to happen, but it is. It is happening for all of us already. For many of us, we're already in it, but we never allowed ourselves to see it because we didn't feel like we were worthy enough for it. But we're here already. We're home. Our home is within us. So I'm asking you to harness that within yourself. I'm asking you to believe in yourself. And I'm asking you to truly share what is vibrating for you and allow that vibration alone to guide you. And that is the merging of the higher self. I was out yesterday with some wonderful people, and I didn't really feel like drinking. I didn't feel like smoking. I didn't feel like doing anything. I just was really at peace with me. And I loved it. I loved to feel that feeling of final peace and not needing any substance. And, allowing the substance if necessary to add, but not really even desiring it. And I feel like I've grown a lot for that, but I know that each of our work is affecting the collective. We're all doing grid work right now, whether we're consciously aware of it or not, because our work is affecting the peace on the planet, is affecting our harmonious relationship with ourselves and others. And the more that we go within, do the inner work, and really decide not to settle because we trust our intuitive guidance and we trust that the kingdom of heaven is within. So if this is resonating with you, please send me your feedback. I will definitely feature you on my next podcast. And and if you are really resonating with things that I've been saying in these past few podcasts or in this podcast, connect with me. I have both personal mentoring, I have group mentoring, I have one-on-one sessions just for quantum healing. Take a look at my website at Gila at gilanehemia.com. You can send me an email or go to gilanehemia.com to find out more information. I'm really here for you. I really want to connect with you, and I want to help you not only build your relationships but also build financial stability, which I will talk about in my next podcast or in coming podcasts because I feel like they're all really interconnected into the sacral chakra, which is really my focus of expertise. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing the work that you do, both on an individual level and on a collective level, because all of our work is really affecting the grid, the planet, the harmonious union and divine union, both within and without, and of course with the divine. Aho, and so it is. I'll just take 3 deep breaths. Please take them with me as we close this circle. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Aho, and so it is. Thank you for the infinite oneness. Thank you for Mother Earth. Thank you for our heart spaces, our womb spaces to really connect our emotions, to connect into this crystalline grid. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Aho, and so it is. Namaste, Om Shanti, Shalom. Until next time.